A Werewolf Romance by Alpha's Claim Collection. Prologue. They say the worst thing a person can lose is their memory. Doctors will tell you it's a medical emergency. Neurologists will order scans, ask questions in calm, measured voices, shine lights into your eyes looking for the thing that broke. Philosophers will tell you that identity without memory is no identity at all. That you are nothing more than the sum of what you can recall, and without that, you are simply a body moving through space, untethered, adrift. But Zara Vasquez, standing in her bathroom at 6 in the morning, has no interest in philosophy or medicine right now. She is staring at her neck. More specifically, she is staring at the mark on her neck. A deep, bruised dark impression just where her neck curves into her shoulder, precise and deliberate in a way that no accidental injury ever is. It doesn't look like a bruise. It doesn't look like anything she has a clinical name for, and she has clinical names for everything. It looks like a claim. Like something that was placed there on purpose by hands that knew exactly what they were doing. She did not have this yesterday. She is certain of that the way she is certain of very few things with her whole body, with her bones. She presses 2 fingers to it and pain flares sharp and immediate, followed by something else entirely. Something warm. Something that moves through her chest like the echo of a voice she almost recognizes. She pulls her hand away. She looks at herself in the mirror for a long moment. Dark eyes. Tired face. Scrubs she hasn't changed out of since her shift ended 4 hours ago, which means she came straight home, which means she should remember coming straight home, and she does not. She remembers the end of her shift. She remembers clocking out. She remembers standing in the hospital's parking structure, reaching for her keys. And then she remembers waking up here 2 hours ago. 48 hours gone. Just gone. 2 days missing from her life like pages torn cleanly from a book, and in their place nothing but fragments. A forest that should not exist inside a city. The smell of rain on dark soil. A voice low, deliberate, unhurried, saying her name like it had been waiting a long time to do exactly that. She looks at the mark. The mark looks back. She is a nurse. She has spent 7 years training herself out of panic, out of the kind of spiraling that gets people killed on emergency tables. She breathes in through her nose for 4 counts, holds it, releases. Think, she tells herself. Think like you're working. Start with what you know. What she knows. 2 days are missing. What she knows. Something is on her neck that was not there before. What she knows, she has not been able to stop facing north since she woke up. That last one is the strangest. That bone-deep, irrational, almost magnetic pull, like her entire body has been quietly reoriented without her permission, like north has a texture now. A specific gravity that has nothing to do with compasses and everything to do with something she cannot name yet. Something, someone, somewhere. She turns away from the mirror. She tells herself it's nothing. Her body tells her it is the most significant thing that has ever happened to her. They say the worst thing a person can lose is their memory. But standing here in the gray morning light, Zara thinks the worst thing might be something else entirely. The worst thing might be this irrational, terrifying, bone-deep certainty. That somewhere out there, someone is looking for her. And that she isn't entirely sure she wants to be found. Chapter 1. The Mark. The hospital at 7 in the morning has its own particular energy. Not the frantic chaos of the night shift. Zara knows that energy well, lives inside it like a second skin, but something transitional, a changing of the guard. The night staff handing off to the day shift in corridors that smell of antiseptic and recycled air, and the particular exhaustion of people who have been keeping other people alive for 8 hours straight. Zara moves through it automatically. Her body knows this building the way it knows her own apartment. Better, maybe, because she has spent more waking hours here than anywhere else in the last 3 years. She should have gone home. She had gone home. And then she had lain in her apartment staring at the ceiling for 2 hours, the mark burning gently on her neck like a lit match, held just close enough to feel, but not close enough to scar. The northward pull in her chest making stillness feel like something she was fighting against rather than something that came naturally. She gave up at 6:30 and came back. Nobody questions it. Zara coming back early is not unusual enough to remark on. You look terrible, Maya says. This is Maya's version of good morning. She is Zara's closest friend, a fellow nurse with the kind of relentless cheerfulness that should be annoying and somehow never is, currently refilling her coffee at the nurse's station with the focused devotion of someone performing a sacred ritual. Thank you, Zara says. I mean it in a caring way. Maya turns, takes one look at her, and her expression shifts from teasing to sharp. What actually happened? Did you sleep at all? Some. Zara. I'm fine. Maya sets down her coffee and closes the distance between them in 3 steps, and before Zara can stop her, she has hooked a finger beneath the collar of Zara's scrub top, pulling it aside to see the mark. The silence that follows is the specific silence of someone trying to decide which version of a reaction to have. Okay, Maya says finally. Her voice is admirably steady. So, wild night. I don't remember it. You don't, Maya stops. At all. At all. Another silence. How much did you drink? Zara looks at her. Right. Maya releases her collar. Not a drinking thing. Okay. She picks her coffee back up because she clearly needs something to do with her hands. That mark is, she pauses, tilting her head, clinical instinct warring with personal concern. It's not a bruise. I mean, it looks like one, but it's not. The shape is too deliberate, Zara supplies. I was going to say precise. Maya meets her eyes. Are you okay? Actually, it's a real question. Not a social question. Maya has known her long enough to ask real ones. Zara considers lying. It would be easy. It would be kind, even, because the truth, I lost 2 days and woke up magnetized toward north, and there is something on my neck that feels like a live wire every time I touch it. Is not a truth that comes with anything useful attached. No action steps. No diagnosis. I'm trying to figure that out, she says instead. Which is the truest answer she has. Maya nods slowly. She is watching Zara with the particular attention she reserves for patients who are minimizing, who are saying I'm fine with their mouths while their bodies say something entirely different. If you remember anything, she says carefully, or if you want me to. I'll tell you. Zara pulls her collar straight. I promise. She believes that when she says it, she intends it completely. What she doesn't know yet is that by the time she understands enough to explain, the explanation will be so far outside the boundaries of Maya's reality that telling her will become its own impossible calculation. The shift begins. Zara falls into it gratefully. This she knows. This she can do. Assess. Respond. Treat. The work is an anchor, and she holds onto it with both hands through 8 hours of rounds and intake forms and a code in the 3rd floor cardiac ward that she runs on pure muscle memory, her hands finding the right rhythm before her mind fully arrives. She does not think about the mark. She thinks about the mark constantly. It pulses at the edges of her awareness like a second heartbeat, and every time she passes a north-facing window, the pull in her chest tightens. She starts taking different routes through the hospital to avoid the north-facing windows. Then she notices she is doing this and stops, deliberately walking past them instead, which helps nothing. At 3 in the afternoon, she is at the nurse's station completing discharge paperwork when she feels it. A change in the air. Subtle, the way a pressure drop before a storm is subtle, something registering below the level of conscious thought, animal and instinctive and impossible to reason with. She looks up before she means to. The man is standing at the end of the corridor. He is not a patient. She knows this immediately, the way she always knows, something about the stillness, the particular quality of his attention, the way he takes up space not with physical size, but with a kind of density that seems to alter the atmosphere around him. Dark suit, dark eyes. A stillness that is less like patience and more like something waiting to be deployed. He is looking directly at her. She looks back at him steadily. Long habit. She does not look away from difficult things. He walks toward her, unhurried, and stops at the desk. Zara Vasquez, he says. Not a question. Can I help you? I'm looking for Zara Vasquez. You found her. She keeps her voice level. Are you here as a patient or for a patient? Neither. His eyes drop briefly to her collar, to the mark hidden beneath it. Something flickers in his expression, recognition, quickly suppressed. I was sent to find you. The pull in her chest tightens sharply. North. He is standing slightly north of her. She notices this the way she notices everything, filing it, not reacting. Sent by who? She asks. He meets her gaze. Someone who would very much like to speak with you. They have a phone number? He doesn't answer that. He simply looks at her and waits, with the quiet certainty of someone who is used to people eventually doing what he needs them to do. I don't know you, Zara says. No. I don't know who sent you. Not yet. She studies him. He is telling the truth. She has spent 7 years learning to read bodies, and his is not lying. He is also not telling her everything, and they both know it, and he seems entirely unbothered by the fact that she knows it. What's your name? She asks. He hesitates one beat too long. Ren, he says. She nods. Closes her paperwork. Picks up her pen and clicks it once. A habit, the click of it steadying, and says in the same tone she uses with patients who are frightened, but trying not to show it. Ran. I'm going to finish my shift. And then I'm going to go home. And if whoever sent you wants to speak with me, they can call the hospital and make an appointment. She picks up her clipboard and walks away from him down the corridor. She rounds the corner, turns immediately into the stairwell, and takes the stairs down 2 floors to the basement supply room where she locks the door behind her and presses her back against a shelf of linen and breathes. Because that man knew her middle name. She hadn't noticed it until she was walking away, her mind running the conversation back automatically the way it always does. He had said her full name, Zara Vasquez. And he'd said the other one, the one she never uses, the one that appears on official documents and nowhere else. The name that isn't on her badge. She grips the shelf. The northward pull intensifies, sudden and overwhelming, and her free hand moves without permission to the mark on her neck and presses against it, and the warmth moves through her chest again, and with it comes the fragment of memory, the rain-soaked forest, the voice saying her name. She drops her hand. She stands very still in the supply room and thinks with cold, precise clarity. She does not know what is happening to her. She does not know what the mark is or who put it there or what the missing 2 days contain. She does not know who sent the man named Ren or how he knew her middle name or what someone who would very much like to speak with you is a polite way of saying. But she knows this. She is going to find out. She is a nurse. She has held patients' hands while their hearts stopped. She has delivered the kind of news that unmakes a person's world in a single sentence. She has run codes in hallways and stairwells and once, memorably, in a parking structure. She has never yet faced something that frightened her more than the alternative of not knowing. She straightens. She smooths her scrubs. She picks up her clipboard from where she's been clutching it and tucks it under her arm. She steps out of the supply room and walks directly into a wall. Except the wall is warm. And it breathes. And when she stumbles back and looks up, she finds herself staring at a face that she has never seen before in her life and knows as well as her own name. The man is tall, dark-haired, eyes the precise color of ice over deep water, green and gray and impossibly clear, and looking at her with an expression that is so carefully controlled it takes her a moment to see what's underneath it. Relief. Raw, exhausted, devastating relief. She opens her mouth. Caden, she says. She doesn't know how she knows it. She has never seen this man before. She has no memory of him, no context, no explanation. But the pull in her chest goes absolutely quiet the moment she says his name. Like something that has been searching finally stops. Chapter 2. The Alpha's Silence. For days without sleep. Ren has not said this aloud because Ren has a functional survival instinct, but the calculation is visible in his expression every time he looks at Caden, a careful, contained worry that he expresses by refilling reports that don't need refilling and hovering near doorways and saying nothing about the fact that his alpha has not shifted in 96 hours. Caden is aware of all of this. He is sitting at his desk in the top floor of the building that houses the PAC's business operations, clean lines, floor-to-ceiling glass, a city laid out below him in grids of light and movement. And he is pressing 2 fingers to the bridge of his nose because the headache that arrived on day 3 of no sleep has now taken up what feels like permanent residence behind his left eye. He made a mistake. 11 years of leading the Voss pack. 11 years of calculated decisions, strategic alliances, measured force applied at precise moments to maintain a territory that his father had bled for and his grandfather had built from nothing. 11 years without a significant error. And then a storm. A forest road. A woman with a tire iron and the particular terrifying calm of someone who has decided that fear is a luxury she cannot currently afford. He had not meant for any of it. That is the thing he keeps returning to, in the sleepless hours and the headaches and the endless internal accounting of a man trying to understand how his control failed him so completely and so fast. He had not meant for the mark. He had not decided it. It had simply happened. The bond snapping into place with the finality of a door closing, and him standing in the rain afterward looking at the mark he'd left on her neck with the sick comprehension of a man who has just done something he absolutely cannot undo. And then she had looked at the mark, and looked at him, and said with extraordinary composure, "Well, I suppose you'd better tell me your name then." He had told her his name. He does not know what else he told her. The fever of the bond was on him by then. The first hours of it always the worst, the wolf taking precedence over the man. He knows she was safe. He knows because he can feel it through the mark, a faint, steady pulse, like a second heartbeat slightly out of sync with his own. He knows she is in the hospital right now. He knows she is in a basement. He knows she is frightened and hiding it. He knows all of this the way he knows where north is. Instinctively, physically, without having to think. Ran. His voice comes out rougher than he intends. Ren appears in the doorway with the promptness of someone who has been standing just outside it. Alpha. Report. She hasn't contacted any authorities. Ren moves to the desk, sets down a tablet. No reports filed. No calls to hospitals or police about the missing time. She returned to work this morning early, actually, before her scheduled shift. Caden absorbs this. It tells him something about her. The woman who would return to work when her entire understanding of herself had just been quietly dismantled is either running from something or anchoring herself to something. Given what he knows of her, he suspects the latter. Her scent, he says. Ren hesitates. Still masked. Whatever you're doing, it's holding. He isn't doing anything consciously. That's the point. His wolf is doing it automatically, protectively, without being asked. Broadcasting a scent mask over her trail the way you might throw a coat over someone in the rain. Without thinking. Without deciding. The bond is already working. Rin is quiet for a moment, in the way he gets quiet before saying something Caden won't like. Caden has known him for 15 years. He waits. Your mother has been informed, Rin says. The headache spikes. She called an emergency council session, Ren continues, his voice carefully neutral. She's requesting your attendance tomorrow morning. She used the phrase dealt with. The quiet in the office becomes a different kind of quiet. Caden lifts his eyes from the desk. Rin meets his gaze steadily, which takes a specific kind of courage, and they both know it. She means the human, Caden. Not you. A beat. Though I imagine she's not ruling you out if you push back. Caden looks at the city below the window. The lights of it. The particular anonymity of a human city, millions of lives stacked on top of each other, none of them knowing what moves through their streets, what claims territory in their buildings, what breathes the same air and walks the same ground and remains entirely invisible because it learned generations ago that invisibility was survival. She is down there somewhere. His marked mate who doesn't remember being marked. Who said his name with the certainty of someone who has known it for years. Find her, he says. Bring her somewhere safe. He pauses. Gently. Ren nods. And Ren. He doesn't turn from the window. The council timeline. How long did my mother negotiate before she told you to tell me? Another hesitation. Longer this time. She says the full moon is in 3 days. That by pack law, any mark unconfirmed by mutual bond after a full moon cycle is considered. I know what it's considered. Considered an act of aggression against an unclaimed individual, Rin finishes quietly. Punishable by challenge. The city glitters below. Indifferent. Beautiful. full of people who sleep without headaches and wake without the weight of a broken bond pressing on their chest like a stone. 3 days, Caden says. Yes, Alpha. He presses his fingers to the bridge of his nose again. The headache doesn't move. Then we have 3 days. Chapter 3. Run. The basement supply room has terrible acoustics. Zara has cataloged this information in the 30 seconds since she walked back out of it and stopped existing as a competent medical professional and started existing as a woman standing in a dim hospital basement corridor trying to remember how to breathe. The man, Caden, is watching her with an expression of such careful neutrality that she can see, very clearly, how much effort it costs him. You know my name, she says. It is not, strictly speaking, the most important thing she could say right now. But it is the one that comes out. Yes, he says. I know yours. She watches his face. I don't know how. Something moves in his eyes. I know. That's not an explanation. No. She studies him the way she studies patients who come in presenting symptoms that don't fit any obvious pattern, systematically, without panic, looking for the thing that connects the data points. He is waiting. He is, she realizes, very good at waiting. He has the particular stillness of someone accustomed to being the most dangerous thing in any given room and having no need to prove it. Her pulse is doing something she doesn't entirely approve of. Who are you? She asks. Someone who owes you an explanation. That's also not an explanation. The corner of his mouth moves, not quite a smile, but the ghost of one, there and gone. I know that too. Footsteps echo from the floor above them. Both of them go still, she with trained quiet, him with something more absolute, more animal. He tracks the sound without moving his eyes from her, and she watches him do it and files that away too. Not here, he says. I'm not going anywhere with you. You're in danger staying here. You might be the danger. Something in his expression shifts. Not offense, something more complicated than that. I might be, he concedes. But I'm not the most immediate one. She thinks of the man named Run Upstairs, of the certainty in his stillness, of the way the air had changed when she felt whatever she had felt. That drop in pressure. That animal knowing. What's on my neck? She asks. He doesn't answer immediately. This, somehow, is more alarming than any answer would be. Is it dangerous? She presses. Not to you. To who then? He looks at her steadily. To anyone who tries to harm you. She processes this for a moment. He lets her process it without filling the silence, which she notes and files. Most people fill silences. People with something to hide fill them loudest. I need to go back upstairs, she says. I have patience. Your shift ended 7 minutes ago. She blinks. You know my schedule. I've known where you are since, he stops. Since when? He is quiet. Since the mark, she says. The word lands between them. His jaw tightens slightly. The only tell she's seen from him, and she suspects he'd prefer she hadn't seen it. Come with me, he says quietly. I'll explain everything. You have my word. Your word means nothing to me. I don't know you. You said my name. She did. She can't explain that, and she doesn't try to. I said a name. It could have been a guess. Was it? She looks at him for a long moment. No, she admits. Something in him eases slightly. Just slightly. She would have missed it if she hadn't been watching. 1 hour, she says. I will give you 1 hour to explain this. In a public place. With people around. She holds his gaze. And if I decide to walk out, you don't follow me. Agree to that or this conversation is over. He considers her. She has the impression of being weighed, not judgment, something more fundamental. Assessment. Agreed, he says. She nods. Then let's go. She turns toward the staircase, and she does not look north, and she does not touch the mark, and she does not acknowledge the way the pulling in her chest has gone quiet in his presence. Absolutely, perfectly quiet, like a sound she'd stopped noticing until it disappeared. She notices its absence loudly. Upstairs the corridor is empty. The man named Rin is gone. Zara collects her bag from her locker, exchanges 2 sentences with Maya, heading out, call me if the Johnson chart needs anything, and feels Maya's eyes on her back all the way to the exit. She meets Caden at the door. They step out into the late afternoon together, and Zara fixes her gaze forward and her breathing steady and tells herself she is a woman who walks toward difficult things. She has always been that woman. She just never expected the difficult thing to know her name. Chapter 4. The truth he won't give her. The building is clean and anonymous, a PAC-owned property, though Zara doesn't know that yet, filing it instead as probably corporate, no personal items, someone's safe house or secondary office. She is, he notices, cataloging everything. Her eyes move over the space with the systematic efficiency of someone who learned long ago that paying attention is how you stay safe. He made tea. He isn't sure why. He doesn't drink tea. His housekeeper keeps it stocked for guests, and he'd found himself standing in the small kitchen doing something with his hands while she explored the perimeter of the room, testing windows, checking the second exit, not subtle about it and not trying to be. He sets a cup in front of her. She looks at it. Then at him. Are you trying to make this feel normal? Is it working? No. But she wraps her hands around the cup. Some baseline part of her recognizes warmth as comfort regardless of context. He notes this. Ask me what you want to know, he says. She looks at him across the table. She has shed the clinical distance she maintained in the hospital, or rather, she has replaced it with something sharper, more direct. The courtesy of a public setting removed. What is the mark, she asks. A bond mark, he says. A permanent one. What does that mean? It means you and I are connected. Biologically, chemically, and in ways that don't have clinical names. He watches her face. It's not reversible. She absorbs this without visible distress, which he finds remarkable. You put it there. Yes. Did I consent to that? The question is quiet and precise, and it lands like a blade. It's complicated, he starts. Uncomplicated. He is quiet for a moment. How to explain a bond to someone who has no frame of reference for what a bond is. How to explain that it isn't done, that a wolf does not mark a mate with intention the way one would sign a contract, that the bond asserts itself, that he had been more animal than man in those moments, and the man in him has been living with the consequences since. The bond happened, he says carefully. What I am sometimes acts on instinct in extreme situations. I didn't make a decision. But I'm responsible for the result. She looks at him for a long moment. What are you? He tells her. She is quiet for a very long time after. He watches her run it through her practical mind, turning it over, examining it, testing it against what she's observed. The man named Ron and his specific stillness. The pull she's been feeling since she woke. The way Caden tracked the footsteps in the basement without moving. Okay, she says finally. He blinks. Okay. I have follow-up questions. A significant number of follow-up questions. She sets down her tea. But I'm a nurse. I've watched people survive things that should be impossible. I've held the hands of people who came back from places medicine has no language for. She meets his eyes. I decided a long time ago that the edges of what I understand are not the same as the edges of what exists. He looks at her. Something tightens in his chest, not the headache, not the bond. Something quieter. Recognition. What happened in the forest, she says. I need to know. You need to know about the missing 2 days. That's what I said. He tells her carefully, partially. The storm, the ambush, her impossible calm. The tire iron. The moment the bond asserted itself and the man who had spent 11 years in absolute control of himself found that control simply absent. He does not tell her what he said to her in those first fevered hours after the mark. He is not ready to examine that closely himself. She listens without interrupting. When he finishes, she is quiet, her hands folded on the table, her eyes somewhere in the middle distance. Did you do this on purpose? She asks. The question. The one he's been sitting with for 4 days. No, he says. She turns to look at him. But he stops. Starts again. No, it wasn't intentional. The silence stretches. Then she asks, very quietly, what were you going to say? He meets her gaze. He is a man who chooses his words precisely. He is a man who does not say things he hasn't decided to say. He has led a pack of hundreds for 11 years on the strength of calculated speech. I was going to say, he says, that it wasn't intentional. but I would do it again. Her lips part. He watches her process that, the confession in it, the specific honesty of it that he hadn't planned and cannot take back. The way it sits differently than anything else he said, because everything else was information and this is something else. She opens her mouth. And then his phone vibrates on the table between them. He glances down. Ran. He answers because Ren only calls during a conversation when something has changed. Your mother, Ren says without preamble. She's already been informed about the human. She's called the emergency council. A pause. The timeline isn't 3 days, Caden. She negotiated the council records before telling me. The full moon isn't in 3 days. Caden goes very still. It's tonight. He is on his feet before the call ends. Zara is already watching him, reading him. He realizes, the way she reads patients who are about to crash. Something changed, she says. Not a question. We need to move. What changed? She repeats, and there is steel under the quiet of it. He looks at her across the table, this woman who walked into his impossible world with her hands steady and her eyes clear and her impossible, devastating calm, and he tells her the truth. My mother, he says, has just run out of time for subtlety. The mark on her neck pulses, warm and urgent. Outside, somewhere to the north of where they sit, a wolf begins to howl. Chapter 5. Council of Wolves. The council chamber is older than the building containing it. That is the only way Caden has ever been able to explain it. The room itself predates the glass and steel wrapped around it, the long oak table and the stone floor transplanted from the original pack house the way you might transplant a heart, keeping the essential thing alive while everything peripheral changes. The walls hold the scent of generations of decisions made under pressure. The air carries the particular weight of a room that has witnessed things it will never be asked to account for. Caden enters it alone. He left Zara in the safe house with Ren standing guard outside the door and her expression, making very clear what she thought of that arrangement. He'd met her eyes one last time before leaving and something had passed between them, wordless, direct, the kind of communication that shouldn't be possible between two people who met, by all conscious reckoning, 3 hours ago. Come back, her eyes had said. He intended to. His mother stands at the far end of the table. Zara Voss is 61 years old and looks 40. Silver-haired and precise, dressed in the particular shade of charcoal gray she has favored since his father's death, mourning transmuted over decades into aesthetic, grief that became armor. She is the most intelligent person in this room and the only one who knows that Caden knows it. They look at each other across the length of the table. The council members are already seated. 12 wolves, 11 men and 1 woman, the weight of the pack's political architecture distributed among them like ballast in a ship. Lord Gareth, who controls the eastern border and has opinions about everything. Old Mira, who controls nothing and knows more than anyone. 6 others whose faces Caden reads in a single practice sweep, nervous, curious, deferential, waiting to see which way the wind turns before committing to a direction. And then there is Darrow. He sits near the window. Broad-shouldered, quiet in the specific way that large wolves are quiet, not stillness born of discipline but stillness born of confidence, of a body that has never needed to fill space with noise because the space was always already his. His eyes find Caden the moment he enters. He doesn't look away. Caden notes this and files it and takes his seat at the head of the table. Mother, he says. Caden. Her voice is warm. It always is. Thank you for coming. As though he had a choice. As though she had not engineered the timeline specifically to ensure he arrived with no preparation and no alternatives. Let's not waste time, he says. Vera nods, gracious as ever. We're here because of the mark. She doesn't elaborate. Everyone in the room already knows. The PAC's information network is thorough and fast, and Caden is under no illusion that his absence from the territory 2 nights ago went unnoticed. You've bonded with a human woman. Yes. The word lands in the room like a stone into water. Ripples of reaction contained, controlled, but visible to anyone paying attention. She has no wolf, Vera continues. No pack. No political standing in any territory. She spreads her hands on the table, a gesture of false reasonableness, one he's known since childhood. These are simply facts, presented without judgment. Then present the rest without judgment as well, Caden says. His mother's eyes move to his. Something in them that has never softened entirely in 11 years. Not since the night his father died and she had stood at the window of the pack house in the particular stillness of a woman deciding whether to survive or not, and chosen survival with the grim intention of a warrior rather than the peace of the willing. She had survived for him. He knows this. He has always known this. Which makes what she is about to do both completely comprehensible and completely unforgivable. A human Luna, Lord Gareth says, volunteering the words Vera had let simmer. The counselor, playing his role with the obedience of long practice, presents vulnerabilities that no amount of goodwill can address. He looks down the table. Alpha, with respect, your enemies will come for her. Not because she is weak personally. Because she is human. Because she cannot shift. Because she cannot fight in the way our world demands, and through her they will reach you. Caden looks at him steadily. Through a Luna they will always attempt to reach the Alpha. Human or wolf, that calculation doesn't change. It changes the odds, Gareth presses. I'll change the odds myself. Caden. His mother's voice. Quiet now. The voice she uses when she means something, when the performance drops for a moment and the woman underneath it speaks. I have watched 3 alphas compromised by the vulnerability of a marked mate. I watched your father, she stops. Her composure holds, but barely, and Caden watches the effort it costs her. I watched what loving someone costs. What it costs when they are taken from you. When they become the thing that can be used to bring you to your knees. The room is very still. She is already your weakness, Vera says. Not cruelly. Worse than cruelly, with certainty, with grief, with the absolute conviction of a woman who has paid this specific price and is trying desperately to prevent her son from paying it too. Before you even know her. Before she even knows what she is to you. If the Harkin Pack discovers that the Voss Alpha has marked a human woman who can be taken, who can be hurt, who cannot protect herself. She protected herself fine before I knew she existed, Caden says. She used a tire iron, Vera says flatly. It worked. A silence. Then, impossibly, briefly, something crosses his mother's face that might, in other circumstances, have been the beginning of a smile. It vanishes. The law is clear, she says, composure restored. A mark unconfirmed by mutual bond after the full moon cycle is an act of aggression against an unclaimed individual. The council is within its rights to demand the rejection. The rejection could harm her. The bond could get her killed. The words fall between them with the weight of everything unsaid, his father, the grief, the window, the choosing to survive. The way love in their world is always also a target. Caden looks at his mother for a long moment. Then he looks at Darrow, who is still watching him from the window seat with that particular quiet. This council will have my answer by morning, Caden says. Rising. Ending the meeting with the finality of a man who has not yet lost the authority to end it. Tonight I speak with her. He walks toward the door. Caden. His mother's voice stops him. He doesn't turn. She doesn't know what she's walking into. Whatever you feel for her. Give her the chance to choose. A real choice. Not one made in the shadow of a bond she doesn't yet understand. He stands very still for a moment. That's the first thing you've said tonight that I agree with, he tells her. He walks out. Down in the street the cold air hits him, and he tilts his face up briefly to the dark sky where the full moon is already rising, sharp and white and entirely indifferent to the lives being rearranged beneath it. His phone buzzes. Ren's number. He answers. Static. Then silence. Then Ren's voice. Very quiet and very controlled, which means something has gone wrong. She's gone, Ren says. Caden closes his eyes. There's a note, Ren adds. What does it say? A pause. I heard everything. Chapter 6. What she heard. The city at night has a sound. Zara has always noticed this, the particular frequency of a city after dark, lower and slower than its daytime self, the rush of it metabolized into something more honest. She walks through it now with her hands in her pockets and her collar up against the cold and her mind doing what it always does under pressure. Working. The vent in the safe house had been a structural oversight. Old building, original ductwork, the kind of detail that gets lost in renovations. She had found it within 10 minutes of being left alone, not because she was snooping, but because she had systematically examined the room, and the vent was simply there, running warm air up from the floor below where the voices were. She had not intended to listen. She had not stopped. A human Luna presents vulnerabilities that no amount of goodwill can address. She is already your weakness. The rejection could harm her. She plays it back in pieces, each piece landing differently now that she is outside and moving and not fighting to keep her expression neutral. The council. The law. The full moon rising above her right now, fat and white and apparently more legally significant than she had previously understood the moon to be. The rejection could harm her. He hadn't told the council that to manipulate them. There had been no strategy in it. It was the first unguarded thing he'd said in that room, the one sentence that came out before the calculation, and she had heard it and felt something in her chest tighten in a way she is not currently prepared to examine. She turns onto the main road and calls Maya. Hey! Maya picks up on the second ring, faintly surprised. Aren't you? Just wanted to hear your voice, Zara says. A beat of silence. Okay, who are you and what have you done with Zara Vasquez? Zara exhales. Something close to a laugh. I'm fine. She stops. Starts again. How's the Johnson chart? Handled. Zara, where are you? You sound. I'm walking. I needed air. Maya is quiet for a moment in the way she gets quiet when she is deciding whether to push. She decides not to. This is one of the many reasons Zara loves her. Call me if you need anything, Maya says. Anytime. Okay. She hangs up. She stands on the pavement for a moment, the phone warm in her hand, the night around her doing its low, honest sound, and she thinks about the things she is not telling Maya. The growing list of them. The way the list has expanded in a single afternoon from I have a mark I can't explain to I have a mark, a missing 2 days, a bond with a werewolf, a council of wolves who want me gone, and apparently a full moon deadline. She went into nursing because she needed to understand things. Because the not knowing was always worse than the knowing, even when the knowing was terrible. A diagnosis, however devastating, is something you can work with. Uncertainty is just fear with no exit. She knows what she is to Caden Voss now. She knows what the council wants. She knows what his mother said with the particular quiet conviction of a woman who has thought about it for a very long time. She is already your weakness. She also knows. And this is the part she is least equipped to deal with, that she does not feel like a weakness. Standing in the hospital basement saying his name before she knew his face. Walking into his impossible world and cataloging it without flinching. Listening through a vent to a room full of wolves debating her fate and walking out with a steady pulse. She does not feel like a weakness. She feels like a woman who has not yet discovered what she is capable of. She turns her face northward. Old habit already, terrifyingly, and starts walking. The hospital roof has a broken lock she has never reported. She reaches it the back way, the route she's taken 100 times, the stairs that the day staff doesn't use. The door gives with its familiar resistance, and then she is out in the cold dark with the city below and the moon above and the particular piece of a high place. She is not alone. The woman standing at the roof's far edge turns slowly, as though she had been expecting Zara and is simply acknowledging her arrival. Silver-haired, impossibly poised, dressed in charcoal gray. Zara recognizes her from the voice. From the vent. His mother. Zara, Voss says. Her voice is warm in the way that very cold things are sometimes warm, a surface quality, carefully maintained. I was hoping you'd come here. You seem like a woman who thinks on high ground. Zara stops. Keeps her distance. Keeps her face neutral. You followed me, she says. I had you followed, Vera corrects, with the precision of someone who distinguishes between the two. I wouldn't insult you by pretending otherwise. Zara looks at her. What do you want? Vera tilts her head slightly. To offer you something. which is more than the situation requires of me. She moves away from the edge. Toward Zara, not threateningly, with the measured grace of a woman who has never needed to threaten because she has never needed to. A clean exit. Money relocation, complete erasure from the pack's awareness. You leave tonight. You go somewhere you want to go. You live the life you were living before 2 nights ago, intact and uninterrupted. Zara listens to the offer. Runs it through her mind. Practical mind, clinical mind, the mind that has kept her safe and functional and clear-headed through 7 years of other people's emergencies. And the mark, she asks. Managed, Vera says. It would fade over time without reinforcement. You'd feel the loss of it for a while. But you would recover. Zara looks at her steadily. You sound certain of that. Something moves in Vera's expression. Quickly suppressed. I know what bonds feel like when they break, she says. I know the recovery is possible. You lost your mate, Zara says. A pause. Yes. And that's why you're here. Zara watches her. Not because you hate me. Not because I'm human. Because you watched what happened when he died and you've spent 20 years making sure it doesn't happen to your son. Vera is very still. I heard you, Zara says quietly. In the council room. I heard everything you said. She pauses. I heard the part that was true and the part that was fear, and I understand the difference. The silver-haired woman looks at her for a long moment. Something shifts in her face, not softening, but adjustment. Recalculation. The recognition of a person who is not quite what they appeared. You're perceptive, Vera says. I'm a nurse. It's the same skill set. Then you know, Vera says, that I'm not wrong. That whatever you feel for my son, whatever the bond is building between you right now, it will make him vulnerable. It will paint a target on you. And the people who would use you to get to him are not people who care about your courage or your perception or your extraordinary calm. Her voice drops. Not threatening. Something worse. Honest. They will simply hurt you. And it will break him. The words land differently than they should. Because there is love in them, real, fierce, grieving love. And Zara is too good at reading people not to feel it. She is quiet for a moment. Then she asks, how long has he been sick? Vera blinks. The first unguarded response Zara has seen from her. The headaches, Zara says. The sleeplessness. Ren mentioned 4 days, but that's just since the mark. How long before that? Vera's jaw tightens. 2 years, she says at last, the words pulled out of her against their will. Since his father's death. He took the grief and the responsibility together, and he's been carrying both without, she stops. Without anyone to put them down with, Zara says softly. Silence on the rooftop. The city below them, indifferent and alive. Take the offer, Vera says quietly. Please. Zara looks at her. At the grief under the composure. At the mother underneath the Luna. I need to think, Zara says. Vera nods. She moves toward the door. Then she stops, her back to Zara. My son has been alone for a very long time, she says. Not to anyone. To the air. He is better at hiding it than anyone I have ever known. A pause. He learned it from me. She walks through the door. Zara stands alone on the roof with the full moon blazing above her and the city sprawled below and the mark on her neck burning steadily, warmly, like something trying to find its way home. She presses 2 fingers to it. North, her body says. North. Chapter 7. The Rejection. The building's lobby is marble and glass, and the security desk is staffed by 2 men who are not, Zara now knows, simply security guards. She watches them clock her arrival from half a block away, the subtle shift in posture, the quick exchange, the decision made before she reaches the door. She gives them her name before they ask. The taller one speaks quietly into an earpiece. A pause. Then he steps aside. She rides the elevator up alone, and the silence of it is the particular silence of a very tall building, the sense of height, of air, of the city falling away beneath you. She watches the floor numbers and keeps her breathing even and does not touch the mark. She has made her decision. She knows what she is going to say. The elevator opens and Caden is already there. Not waiting in the corridor, just there, as though the building told him she was coming and his body moved before his mind weighed in. He is in dark clothes, no jacket, the formality of the council meeting stripped away. He looks like a man who has been sitting alone for an hour doing something difficult. He looks, she realizes, like someone who is frightened she wasn't coming back. She files this away. You heard the council, he says. I heard the vent, she says. You should fix it. Something in him eases slightly. Are you all right? I've been better. She walks past him into the space beyond, a living area this time, not the anonymous safe house, somewhere that has the weight of actual habitation. Books. A cold cup of coffee on the side table. A city view that must be extraordinary in daylight. I've also been worse. She turns to face him. I want the rejection, she says. His expression doesn't change. But the air does. Something in it contracting, tightening, the way it did in the basement before the pressure drop. No, he says. I've thought about it and... No. Quieter this time. More absolute. She looks at him carefully. You don't get to decide that. I do in the process. He stops. Steadies himself. It isn't safe for someone in your position. Newly marked, the bond still establishing itself. A forced rejection at this stage he stops again. Could what? Break something, he says. In you. That can't be put back. She holds his gaze. Your mother told me it was manageable. My mother, he says, very evenly, would tell you whatever it took to make you walk away. The words fall between them, and Zara watches him register what he has said, the disloyalty of it, the truth of it, the grief of both. She softens her voice. Not because she is surrendering anything, but because she can hear what it cost him. She loves you, she says. I know. She's terrified of losing you. I know that too. He looks at her directly. Zara, what did she say to you? Specifically. She said the rejection was manageable. She said I'd recover. She pauses. She said you've been sick for 2 years. He is very still. She said you're better at hiding it than anyone she's ever known. Zara keeps her voice level, clinical, the voice she uses when she is delivering information that the recipient needs regardless of how it lands. And that you learned it from her. A long silence. He turns away, toward the window, toward the city, the gesture she's already learning as his particular form of needing a moment without being observed. She lets him have it. The rejection process, she says to his back, is it actually dangerous? For a newly marked human? Yes. He doesn't turn. More than my mother indicated. How much more? He turns then. And the expression on his face is the first fully unguarded thing she has seen from him, not the almost smile, not the careful assessment, but something stripped and honest and tired in the way that people who never admit to being tired finally look when they have run out of performance. Enough that I won't do it, he says. Regardless of what the council demands. Regardless of the timeline. He meets her eyes. I will not put you through that. She looks at him for a long moment. 3 things happen in her in rapid succession, each one overlapping the next. First, the clinical recognition that he is telling the truth, his body, which she can read now with an intimacy that should be impossible after 3 hours, is not lying. Second, the quieter, more complicated recognition that he is choosing her safety over his own position, his own authority, the approval of his counsel and his mother. Third, the thing she hasn't been acknowledging since the basement, since she said his name before knowing his face, since the pull in her chest went quiet when she stood next to him. She steps toward him. He watches her come. I'm not taking the rejection, she says. He blinks. Zara. Not because of the danger to me. She stops close enough to read the relief crossing his face before he can contain it. Because your mother is not going to win this by engineering a timeline and threatening people I love. The relief sharpens into something alert. People you. Her phone rings. The hospital number. She answers it and listens, and the clinical part of her brain takes over completely, calm and immediate. She asks 2 questions, receives 2 answers, and hangs up. She looks at Caden. Maya's in my emergency department, she says. Her voice is steady. Her hands are not. Hit by a car outside my apartment building. She watches his face. Your mother knew where I lived. Caden's expression goes very still. She has the impression of something enormous held under absolute control, a force that is not allowed to move because if it begins moving it will not stop. His eyes are cold and precise and terrifying. How bad? He asks. Stable. Multiple fractures. She lifts her chin. She's alive. She'll recover. He nods once. Something is happening behind his eyes. Calculation, yes, but also something raw. Something that understands exactly what she is feeling right now and chooses, in this moment, not to look away from it. I can't prove it, Zara says. No. I won't try. No, he agrees. Still holding her gaze. She breathes in slowly. Out. The nurse's breath. The steady one. I am not taking the rejection, she says again. And I am not taking your mother's offer. And I am not disappearing quietly so that the people who hurt my best friend get to walk away from it clean. She holds his eyes. I will stand with you in front of your counsel. I will be whatever I need to be. But I'm doing it on my terms. As myself. Not as a liability to be managed or a weakness to be hidden. He looks at her. My terms, she repeats. Agree to that or I walk. A beat. Tell me your terms, he says. Equal footing. No decisions made about my life without my knowledge. No protection that I haven't consented to. She keeps her voice level. And you tell me the rest. All of it. Everything about the 2 days I don't remember. Something in his face shifts. Everything. Everything. He is quiet for a long moment. Agreed, he says. She exhales. There's something else, he says, and his voice has changed, careful now, the way it gets when he is approaching something significant. About the 2 days. About what you did. He pauses. There's a part one haven't told you yet. She looks at him. The mark, he says. It goes both ways. She blinks. You marked me too, he says simply. That night in the forest. Before you lost consciousness. His eyes hold hers without looking away. You don't remember it. But you did. The mark on her neck pulses warm. Her hand lifts without her permission and finds, in the curve where his neck meets his shoulder, beneath the collar of his dark shirt, a mark that mirrors her own. She stares at it. Then she looks up at him. Well, she says softly, and something that might be the beginning of a smile touches her mouth. I suppose that explains a few things. And then his phone rings and Ren's voice comes through fast and urgent, and the full moon blazing outside the window suddenly feels less like a backdrop and more like a countdown. The timeline moved. She triggered the challenge. It's tonight, Caden. An hour. Get here. Chapter 8. Breaking point. The hospital at midnight is a different creature than the hospital at dawn. Zara knows all its faces. The 7 a.m. face with its shift-change energy and its recycled coffee. The 2 p.m. face with its steady procedural hum. The midnight face, which is the truest one, the hospital stripped down to its essential function, keeping people alive, no pretense and no performance. She is at Maya's window when Caden arrives. She didn't call him. She knew he would come. Felt him coming, that northward pull resolving into presence behind her before she heard his footsteps. She is still getting used to that. She suspects she will be getting used to it for a long time. He stands beside her at the glass. Maya lies beyond it in the steady blue-white light, her left arm casted, her right knee immobilized, monitors tracing the quiet confirmation of her continuing life. She looks small in the hospital bed. Maya is not a small person. She fills rooms with her laugh, with the particular expansive warmth of someone who has decided that generosity costs nothing and means everything. She looks small. Zara keeps her hands in her pockets and her breathing even. She'll recover fully, Caden says. His voice is low and careful. The damage. I know the damage, Zara says. I reviewed her chart. She pauses. I know exactly what was done to her and how it was done and the precise range of outcomes. Another pause. I've been standing here for 20 minutes doing the thing where I make it clinical so I don't have to feel it yet. Silence. It doesn't always work, she adds. No, he says. It doesn't. She looks at him sideways. You do the same thing. He doesn't answer. Which is its own answer. They stand side by side in the blue-white corridor light, the midnight hospital doing its quiet life-keeping around them, and Zara feels the strangeness of it. The specific improbability of standing here with this man, in her world, in the building she has spent 7 years making her second home. His world is forests and councils and moons and ancient laws. Her world is this: fluorescent light and linoleum and the sound of a monitor maintaining the life of her best friend. And they are, somehow, both standing in it together. She's here because of me, Zara says. She's here because of my mother's choices, Caden says. Quiet and precise and utterly without deflection. Not yours. Zara looks at him for a moment. Something in her chest tightens, not the bond, not the mark. Something simpler. Something that has no supernatural explanation at all. Your mother told me you've been alone for a long time, she says. He is still. She told me you're better at hiding it than anyone she's ever known. Zara turns to face him fully now. I believe her. I've been watching you hide things since the basement. She pauses. You're very good at it. Zara. The headaches, she says. How long? A pause. 2 years. Since your father. Yes. You've been carrying the pack's grief and your own and pretending to be fine. I am fine. You're not sleeping. Caden. Her voice is quiet and direct and does not leave room for the deflection he is clearly reaching for. I spent 7 years watching people minimize their symptoms because they were afraid of what the truth meant. I got very good at seeing through it. She holds his gaze. I see through it. He looks at her for a long, complicated moment. The midnight light is unkind in the way of all honest light. It shows what daylight forgives. She can see the exhaustion in him properly now. The weight he carries not in his posture, but behind his eyes. The bond helps, he says at last. Very quietly. As though admitting to something he hasn't let himself admit to before. Since you've been near. Since the mark reconnected. He looks at the wall. The headache has been less. I slept for 2 hours this afternoon. She nods. Files this. The bond is doing something physiological. It does that. He meets her eyes. It was designed to. Mates stabilize each other. Biologically, chemically. A pause. It's part of why separation, he stops. Is dangerous, she finishes. He nods. She turns back to Maya's window. Her friend's chest rises and falls in the steady rhythm of the sedated. I'm not taking the rejection, she says again. For the 3rd time. Each time it is more certain than the last. She can feel the certainty solidifying, the decision becoming architecture. And I'm not running. She glances at him sideways. I heard your mother's offer on the roof. Clean exit, money, relocation. She made a good case for it. She's very good at making cases, he says tightly. She's trying to protect you. By hurting people you love. Zara is quiet for a moment. Did she know Maya would be hurt? Or just that having me followed to the hospital would be enough pressure? Caden's joy tightens. I don't know which is worse. Neither, Zara says simply. They're equally bad. She exhales. But she's your mother. And she survived something that should have broken her. And she's been holding your pack together since your father died. She pauses. I'm not going to pretend she's the villain because it would be easier. He looks at her. But I am not going to disappear, she continues, her voice very steady. Not for her. Not for the council. Not for the wolves that will apparently come for me because I can't shift. She straightens. If they come for me, I will deal with that the same way I dealt with 3 of your wolves in a forest with a tire iron. A beat. Badly for them. Something in his expression, something exhausted and carefully maintained and carefully lonely, fractures slightly. Just at the edges. I'll be your Luna, she says. If that's what this requires. But I do it as myself. On my terms. Equal footing. He looks at her. I already agreed to that. I know. I'm saying it again because I want you to hear it properly this time. She holds his gaze. You're not taking on a liability. You're not taking on someone who needs protection from your world. You're taking on someone who walked into your world and stayed standing. She pauses. Make sure you know what that means before you agree. The monitor behind the glass beeps its steady rhythm. Caden looks at her for a long moment, the full weight of his attention, Nothing managed or contained, the calculations stripped away. I know what it means, he says. Good. His phone. Ran. An hour. Get here. He looks at her. Let's go, she says. Chapter 9. What she did. The car ride takes 20 minutes. Caden talks for most of them. Not the managed version. The real one, words chosen carefully but not strategically, the difference between precision and control. He tells her the forest. The ambush. The 3 rogue wolves from the Harkin territory who had been tracking him for 2 nights, waiting for a moment when he was alone and the distance from pack support was enough to change the odds. The storm. The road. Her car, half off the shoulder with a blown rear tire, and its hazard lights blinking orange into the rain. And Zara Vasquez stepping out of it with a tire iron and an expression that he describes, with something that is almost wonder, as professionally inconvenienced. She had not screamed, had not frozen, had assessed the situation with the particular rapid calm of someone who has learned to treat chaos as information rather than threat, registered 3 enormous figures moving in ways that humans do not move, and apparently decided that the one being outnumbered was the one she was helping. She went for the nearest one's knee. Zara listens to this and says nothing. She is doing the thing where she runs it through her mind. She can feel herself doing it, which is new and strange, the odd double awareness of the bond reading her emotional state back to her from his direction. And then, she asks, and then you gave me enough to turn the fight. He glances at her sideways, briefly. You're very fast for a human? For someone with a blown tire in the middle of a forest in a rainstorm. She almost smiles. Doesn't quite. And the mark. His hands tighten on the wheel. Afterward. You were a pause. Unhurt. I wasn't. The shift takes something out of you afterward. The fever of it. And the bond, he stops. I've never felt anything like it. Not in 11 years. It was like recognition, she says quietly. He looks at her. That's what it feels like from my side, she says. What I can feel of it. She touches the mark briefly. Like something I already knew. Silence. After I marked you, he says, you didn't run. You didn't. He stops again. She waits. You looked at what I'd done and you asked my name. Completely calm. Like you were taking notes. I was taking notes. I know. Something warm in his voice. Gone quickly. I told you more than I should have. The bond was I wasn't fully myself. I told you about the pack. About my father. About the council and the territory, and he exhales. More than I've told most people in years. She looks at him steadily. What else did you tell me? A long pause. That I'd been looking for you, he says. That my wolf had been restless. For years. Looking for something it couldn't name. He keeps his eyes on the road. That when you appeared in that forest it was like. He stops. Like what? She asks. Like the restlessness stopped, he says simply. The car is very quiet. And then you passed out from the rain and the cold, he says, a slight roughness in his voice, and I brought you home, and when you woke up you had no memory of any of it. She looks out the window at the city moving past. And you've been living with all of that for 4 days while I've been living with a mark and a missing memory. Yes, that sounds terrible. It was. She turns to look at him. Caden, when I asked you in the safe house if you did it on purpose. She pauses. You said you would do it again. Yes. Did you mean it? He meets her eyes briefly across the darkness of the car. Yes. She holds his gaze for a moment. Okay, she says. She turns back to the window. It is, she thinks, possibly the most compressed and strange and significant okay she has ever said. She has agreed to nothing and acknowledged everything, and the bond hums warmly at the base of her neck, and the city gives way to the outskirts, and then to dark road and dark trees, and the white blazing fact of the full moon overhead. The stone circle appears as the trees open up. She steps out of the car into cold air and pine and something older than both. The scent of the pack, she realizes, 100 wolves gathered in the dark, and the weight of their presence pressing against her human senses like a physical thing. Every head turns toward her. She looks back at all of them. Stay close to me, Caden says quietly beside her. Stay close to me, she says back. Something in his eyes. There and gone. They walk forward together. Chapter 10. The Challenge. The stone circle is exactly what it sounds like. Ancient gray stones in a rough ring, worn smooth by generations of rain and ceremony, older than anyone present and indifferent to all of them. Moonlight pools inside it like water. The pack stands at the edges, 100 bodies, 100 wolves barely contained in human form, the air thick with pack bond and anticipation, and the specific electricity of a night when something will be decided. Zara stands at the circle's edge and reads the room. She does this without thinking. It is what she does, has always done, the nurse's instinct that never fully switches off. She reads the faces, the body language. The way 30 wolves nearest the stone look at Caden with the simple, steady faith of people who have decided, and the way 12 others nearest the far side look at Dara with something more complicated. Calculation. Opportunity. The quiet treachery of those who have been waiting for a weakness to present itself. Vera stands to the right of the circle. She has exchanged the charcoal gray for something colder, pale, almost white, luniformal. She does not look at Zara. This tells Zara more than looking would. Dara is already inside the circle. She has not seen him before. She files him quickly, large, contained, the quietness of deep confidence. He looks at Caden with no particular animosity. That is almost more alarming. He is not angry. He is simply prepared. Caden steps inside the circle. He does not look at Zara before he does it. He doesn't need to. She feels it through the bond, the steady, deliberate calm of a man who has done difficult things before and does not require an audience for his courage. Ren appears at her shoulder. Stay here, he says quietly. Where would I go, she says. He gives her a sideways look that suggests he does not find this as reassuring as she intends. The challenge is spoken in words she doesn't know, old words, the cadence of them ritual, the language of the pack in its formal register. She watches Caden's face during them. He is stone. Beautiful, controlled stone. Then the words end and Dara shifts. She has seen it once before, in the forest, in the dark, but seeing it clearly in moonlight is different. The change is fast and brutal and strangely elegant, a body rewriting itself with the blunt efficiency of something that has never apologized for what it is. What stands where Dara was is enormous, dark-furred, pale-eyed, radiating the specific menace of a wolf that is also a man and has both creatures' capacity for strategy. Caden shifts. She watches. She had thought, somehow, that his wolf form would surprise her. It does not. It is entirely, immediately him. The silver-gray fur, the ice-green eyes, the particular quality of his stillness translated directly into his wolf. He is enormous. He is controlled. He looks at Dara with the expression she has come to recognize as his neutral face, which is not neutral at all, but simply the face he wears when he is deciding. The fight is fast. That is the first thing, the speed of it, nothing like the slow choreography of human conflict. It is force and weight and precise targeting, intelligence and instinct working together, and Caden is winning with the efficiency of 11 years of leadership that was never ceremonial. Dara feints left. And then right toward the edge of the circle, toward the crowd, toward the specific point in the crowd where Zara is standing. It is a fraction of a second. It is completely deliberate. She sees Caden move before he decides to. The bond snapping his attention toward her with the same inevitability as gravity, the alpha's body reorienting toward his mate's safety with no consultation from the alpha's mind. Dara takes the opening. The impact is brutal and fast, and Caden goes down on one knee, silver fur dark with blood on his shoulder, his breath coming hard and visible in the cold air. The crowd goes absolutely still. Vera raises her hand. The forfeit. The end. Zara is already moving. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't calculate it. She does not consult the rational, clinical, careful mind that has governed every significant decision she has ever made. She simply moves the same way she moved in the hospital basement, the same way she moved in the forest with the tire iron, the body knowing before the mind catches up. She steps into the circle. A sound from the crowd, shock, alarm. Several voices at once. Zara. Rin, behind her, sharp and urgent. She doesn't stop. She walks to where Caden kneels, silver wolf, bleeding, the controlled exhaustion of a man who has been carrying too much for too long finally visible in every line of him, and she kneels beside him in the cold mud and the moonlight. She places her hand over the mark on his neck. Her mark. The one she left without knowing. The one that mirrors the one on her own neck, the bond running both directions, the current that flows between them finding its ground. She presses her palm flat against it. The bond ignites. She feels it, not the warm pulse she's been feeling since the basement, but the full thing, the actual thing, the connection that has been half present and half dormant snapping to life with the violence of something that has been held back too long. It moves through her like electricity, like recognition, like the answer to a question she has been asking her whole life without knowing the words for it. And through it. Through the bond, through the mark, through whatever biological miracle or ancient magic this is, she feels him. Not his pain. Not his exhaustion. Not the blood on his shoulder or the weight of 11 years of grief and leadership carried in silence. His certainty. Absolute, bedrock, devastating certainty. You, it says. It was always going to be you. Under her palm his body shudders once. And then Caden rises. Chapter 11. After. Darrow yields. It is not dramatic. He simply lowers himself. First to his haunches, then fully, his massive dark head dropping until his chin touches the ground. The submission is total and immediate and entirely without resentment. He had played the role he was given. The role is over. He yields to the alpha who rose. The crowd remains still for a long moment. Then, beginning at the edges, it ripples a sound, low and collective, the pack acknowledging what it has witnessed. Not cheering. Something more fundamental than cheering. Recognition. Zara is still kneeling in the mud. Caden shifts back, the reverse of what she watched, the wolf dissolving back into the man, and he is kneeling in front of her when it is done, breathing hard, blood on his shoulder. His ice green eyes finding her face with an immediacy that suggests he did not look anywhere else first. You walked into my circle, he says. Yes. That was effective, she says. He stares at her. Also dangerous, she adds. I'll add it to the list of things I did without fully thinking about it. She glances at his shoulder. That needs to be cleaned. His mouth moves. Something is happening in his expression. She is not sure she has the vocabulary for it yet, for the specific combination of exasperation and something far warmer that is looking at her like she has managed to be both the problem and the solution simultaneously. Luna. The word comes from behind her. Old Mira, the one council member who controls nothing and knows everything, standing at the circle's edge with her hands folded and her ancient eyes moving over Zara with the undisguised assessment of someone who has lived long enough to dispense with manners. She stepped into the circle, Mira says. To the council. To the crowd. To no one and everyone. During a formal challenge. Of her own will. Unclaimed and unprotected. The old woman pauses. Pack law is clear on this. Zara looks at Caden. Is it? It is, he says. Something in his voice she can't parse. An unprotected individual who enters a formal circle during challenge and remains standing. Cannot be rejected, Mira finishes. Cannot be removed. Cannot be replaced. The old eyes find Zara's without softness and without hostility. She has claimed the circle. She has claimed her place. A pause. Welcome, Luna. Zara absorbs this. Did you know that role existed? She asks Caden. Yes, he says. Did you tell me about it? No. Why not? He meets her gaze. Because I didn't want you to do it for a legal technicality. He pauses. I wanted you to do it because you chose to. She looks at him for a long, quiet moment. I did choose to, she says. He nods. I know. Vera is standing 20 feet away, still as a column of pale stone, watching them. Zara looks at her across the distance. The silver-haired woman's face holds many things. grief and calculation, and the specific devastation of a woman who has lost a battle she fought from love, which is the worst kind of losing because the love doesn't go anywhere, it simply becomes grief's architecture. Zara holds her gaze. I will protect him, she says without saying it. I swear to you I will. Something in Vera's expression shifts. Not acceptance. Not yet. Something earlier than acceptance, the first faint possibility of it. She turns and walks into the dark. Ren appears with a medical kit, of all things. She blinks at it and he shrugs. I was a scout before I was a beta, he says. Old habit. She takes it from him automatically, kneeling beside Caden. The wound is already closing. She makes a note of this for her apparently expanding understanding of what the word biology means, but she cleans it anyway, and he lets her, watching her face while she works. Ask me, he says. What? Whatever you're working through. You have the face you get when you're processing something. She glances up. I have a face? You have several. I'm learning them. She looks back at his shoulder. When you said your wolf had been looking for me for 11 years. She pauses. What does that mean? We'd never met. Not consciously, he says. But the bond, he stops. Considers. For some wolves it works like that. The mate exists before you meet them. Your wolf knows the shape of them, not their face, not their name. Just the shape. He is quiet for a moment. The restlessness is the looking. Most wolves find their mate inside the pack within a few years. Mine found me in a forest with a tire iron. Yes. She ties off the clean bandage. Sits back. The full moon is directly overhead now, blazing white, the circle empty around them, the pack dispersed back into the dark. The two of them alone in the ancient stone with the moonlight pooling like water. I'm going to need a lot of explanations, she says. I know. About the pack. About what being Luna actually means. About the bond and what it does and doesn't do. She meets his eyes. About the 2 years and the headaches and the grief you've been carrying. He is quiet for a moment. That's a long list. I'm a thorough person. Something in his face. That thing she doesn't have vocabulary for yet, that combination of exasperation and warmth, becoming more familiar, becoming something she suspects she will learn to read without thinking. I have time, he says. She looks at him. I have a lot of time, he adds, if you're staying. She holds his gaze in the moonlight, in the ancient circle, in the cold, clean air of a world she walked into 4 days ago, not knowing it existed. I'm staying, she says. His hand finds hers in the dark. She lets it. Epilogue. 6 months later. The hospital roof is the same as it always was. Broken lock she's still never reported. Concrete and cold metal and the particular song of the city at this height, lower and more honest than street level, the version of the city that doesn't perform. She has come here her whole career when she needed to think, to breathe, to find the still point inside a difficult day. She still comes here. Some things don't change when your world does. It's a Tuesday night, and she has just finished a double shift and her feet are arguing with her, and she has paperwork she technically should have finished 2 hours ago, and she is standing at the roof's edge with a cup of coffee that has gone cold, and she is, for the first time in a very long time, not doing the clinical processing thing, not running the data, not managing the output, just standing. Maya appears through the door behind her, the slight favoring of her left leg the only remaining evidence of 6 weeks of recovery, 6 weeks that Zara has watched with the focused attention of someone who needed to see every stage of healing with her own eyes. You're doing the staring thing, Maya says. I'm thinking. Same thing. Maya leans on the railing beside her. He's downstairs, you know. In the lobby. Trying not to look like he's waiting and succeeding at absolutely nothing. Zara smiles. She does this easily now, the smile that comes before she can consider it. She has been cataloging this, the new reflexes she's developed over 6 months. The ones that didn't exist before. The Luna ceremony is next week, Maya says. I know. Are you nervous? Zara considers. About standing in front of the pack and being formally recognized as their Luna? Yes, that. No, she says. And means it. She has stood in that circle already. She has stepped into the ancient stones in the dark without knowing the rules. That was the real ceremony, Everything else is acknowledgement. Maya is quiet for a moment, doing the thing where she decides whether to say the difficult thing. She's going to be there, she says. Vera. I know. Zara. She had you hurt, Maya. I know. Zara looks at the city. I also know she was trying to save her son from something she was terrified of. I know she survived the unsurvivable and built a pack out of grief and raised a man who turned out, she stops, to be worth all of it. She exhales. She and I are not friends. But she is his mother. And she is trying, in the particular way of people who don't easily admit they're wrong, to try. Maya looks at her sideways. You're better at this than I would be. You'd be better at it than you think, Zara says. She glances sideways. You did find a way to forgive him for the bodyguards. The bodyguards are growing on me, Maya admits. The tall one remembered my birthday. Zara laughs. Actually laughs, easy and full, the kind that comes from somewhere unguarded. The door opens. Caden steps out onto the roof and the city glitters below, and he looks at her laughing, and something in his face does the thing it does. The thing she has vocabulary for now, after 6 months of learning his expressions like a language. It's not one feeling. It is the specific combination of relief and recognition, and something that has no word in any language she knows except the one the bond says, quietly and constantly, underneath everything. Found. The headache stopped in the 3rd week after the ceremony. She asked him about it precisely twice before he admitted it, and she has not brought it up since because he answered truthfully, and that was what mattered. He sleeps now. She knows because she is there. You're late, he says. I was thinking. On my roof. My roof, she says. I found it first. He comes to stand beside her at the railing, his shoulder against hers, his hand finding hers without looking. Below them the city breathes its slow night breath, millions of lives moving in their orbits, none of them knowing what stands on this rooftop in the dark, what ancient thing wearing a modern face, what impossible story reaching its middle. Not its end. Its middle. She knows this. There will be the council and the politics and the Harkin territory and Zara Voss learning, in her careful way, to make room. There will be the pack that is still deciding what to make of a Luna who cannot shift, who shows up to formal proceedings with residual hospital smell and a direct gaze that unsettles people who are used to being unsettled by no one. There will be hard things. Things she cannot yet see the shape of. She has decided this does not frighten her. She has decided. The same way she decides everything significant, not quickly but with her whole weight, that she is a woman who walks toward difficult things. That she always has been. That this was true before a storm and a forest and a bond she didn't choose, and then chose anyway. Vera is planning to attend, she says. I know. His thumb traces a slow circle on the back of her hand. I asked her. She looks at him. You asked her. She's my mother. He looks at the city. She's also, he stops. In the way he stops when the word he needs costs him something. She's trying. I know she is, Zara says. I know you know. He turns to look at her. I'm still learning how you hold both things at once. He pauses. How you see the whole person without losing the injury. She looks at him steadily. It's the same skill set, she says. You treat the wound and you treat the patient. You don't have to choose. He watches her for a moment. I told you, he says, that my wolf had been looking for you. You told me. I didn't tell you, he stops. Looks down at their joined hands. Looks back up. For the first 10 years of leading this pack, I told myself the restlessness was about the territory. The alliances. The work of building something my father would have, something worth having. His voice is very quiet. Not performed. The real voice, the one underneath. Then 2 years ago my father died and the work stopped being enough and he pauses. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew I was looking. The mark on her neck pulses, warm and steady. And then you appeared in a forest, she says. In a storm, he says. With a tire iron. She squeezes his hand. To be fair, it worked. It did. Something in his voice. Warm and precise and fully itself. You worked. She looks at him. The city spreads below them, alive and indifferent and full of people who sleep without knowing what moves through their streets. The moon is rising, not full tonight, just a quiet crescent, doing its gentle work. The bond hums between them with the low steady warmth of something that has found its ground, has stopped searching, has come finally to rest. She is not the same woman who stood on this rooftop 6 months ago staring at a mark she couldn't explain. She is something more than that woman. Something that was always in her, waiting for the world to ask for it. Claimed, the bond says. Chosen. Not because someone took her choice away. Because she walked into the circle herself. And stayed. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means everything to this channel and to every story we create together. If this story moved you, please consider leaving a like or a comment. It truly helps more than you know. The Alpha's Claim channel has more stories coming, more worlds to step into, more bonds to follow into the dark. Stay with us. Tell us where in the world you are listening from. The next story is already waiting. See you soon.